Shisui Meaning. In Naruto, names are never random. Kishimoto often gives his characters names that reflect their destiny. With Shisui Uchiha, the symbolism hits especially hard. His name, Shisui, translates to still water or death water. It paints a silent, haunting image. This isn't just poetic. It mirrors the way he died, jumping into the Naka River to erase himself from history. A peaceful surface hiding a tragic end. Shisui didn't die in a glorious battle. He chose a quiet death, vanishing like ripples fading on a calm stream. His name predicted this. It whispered the idea that no matter how fast, how powerful, or how loyal he was, his fate was still death in silence, away from glory. This tragic undertone wasn't meaningless. His death became the silent trigger that pushed Itachi further down the path of destruction. The Uchiha massacre didn't start with blades. It started with Shisui's fall into the river.
Before we jump to the next part, we want to take a moment to thank you all for your incredible support. We're on our way to 10,000 subscribers, and every single one of you makes this journey even more exciting. If you love Naruto as much as we do, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share this video to help us reach even more fans. Your support keeps us going. Now,
Kagami descendant. Shisui carried the legacy of Kagami Uchiha, a name that only few still remember, but one that meant everything to the third Hokage. Kagami was one of the rare Uchiha who stood by Konoha with absolute loyalty. He fought alongside Tobirama and never succumbed to the clan's growing hatred. Shisui inherited that spirit. Although the exact bloodline isn't clearly stated, Hiruzen Sarutobi saw Kagami in Shisui, and he trusted him, maybe too much. This heritage became a silent burden. Shisui had to live up to Kagami's name. He wasn't allowed to fall. He couldn't doubt. He had to be the ideal Uchiha, loyal, rational, and willing to betray his clan if it meant saving the village. That pressure would define his entire life. Family burden. Shisui's childhood was not filled with laughter or warmth. His father, once a proud shinobi, lost a leg in war. Illness followed. Shisui, still a child, had to grow up faster than anyone around him. At just 10 or 11, he became a jonin, not because he wanted to, but because he had to feed his family. He became the head of the household when he was barely old enough to tie a forehead protector. And when his father became too ill to recognize him, Shisui didn't cry. He simply accepted it. "Everyone dies," he once said. Cold words, but they weren't heartless. They came from someone who had already lost too much, too fast. This responsibility turned him into a calm, calculating warrior. He didn't let emotions cloud his judgment. He couldn't afford to. That's how the perfect shinobi is made, through pain, not choice. Born in war. Shisui was born 12 years before the Third Great Shinobi War. By the time he graduated the academy, war had already started. There was no time to dream, no time to be a kid. He was thrown onto the battlefield like many others of his generation. But war didn't only scar his body, it carved something deeper. It created shadows inside him. One of those shadows took form as jealousy. On his Genin squad, Shisui had a best friend. That friend was stronger, faster, more talented. Shisui admired him, but also envied him. And that envy, that moment of hesitation when his friend fell behind during a mission, changed everything. Shisui didn't go back. He let him die. He regretted it immediately. The guilt crushed him. And in that grief, his Mangekyo Sharingan awakened. Not through killing, but through emotional collapse. That event would shape how he viewed life, death, and loyalty forever. The body flicker. Shisui wasn't known for brute strength or massive ninjutsu. He was known for disappearing. In a blink, he would vanish. That's how he earned the name, Shisui, of the body flicker. The body flicker technique is more than speed. It's deception. Shisui combined high-speed movement with afterimages and tactical feints. He created illusions not with chakra, but with raw motion. Enemies would strike his shadow, only to realize they were too late every time. He became a ghost on the battlefield, so fast that Ao, a high-ranking mist shinobi, recognized his presence and ordered a full retreat. That's not respect, that's fear. But this speed wasn't a trick. It was a shield. It kept Shisui untouchable, always one step ahead until Danzo cornered him. Uchiha youngest genius. Shisui was a prodigy. While most kids were still struggling with basic jutsu, Shisui had already awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan, and he did it at an age when most shinobi hadn't even faced their first real mission. He also became one of the youngest ever to lead an Anbu squad. That alone is a rare honor. But what made it even more insane was this. At that time, Shisui was considered the strongest Uchiha alive, not Fugaku, not even young Itachi. People often forget. Itachi was brilliant, but he grew up under Shisui's shadow. For a while, Shisui stood at the very top, not through force but through sheer technique, speed, and intelligence. He didn't need flashy explosions. He won with precision. A feared name. In the ninja world, fear is a weapon, and Shisui's name alone could end battles before they even started. During a mission against Kirigakure, Shisui and his team engaged enemy forces. Among them was Ao, an elite sensory-type ninja and a hardened veteran. Ao sensed something strange. Then he recognized the chakra. It was Shisui Uchiha. Without hesitation, Ao ordered a full retreat. Not because of traps, not because of overwhelming numbers, just because Shisui was there. That's the level of fear we're talking about. His reputation was a genjutsu in itself. It clouded judgment, broke morale, and shattered confidence. That kind of psychological power is rare, even among the most feared shinobi. A double agent. While climbing the ranks of the Anbu, Shisui was also working for Danzo. That means he was a high-ranking operative. He was part of Root, the hidden network of Black Ops shinobi answering only to Danzo Shimura. This made him a double agent. On paper, he served Konoha. In practice, he was forced to spy on his own clan, and that tore him apart inside. The Anbu trusted him as a commander. The Uchiha clan watched him as one of their brightest stars. But behind the mask, he was lying to both sides. Living like that would break most people. But Shisui believed in something greater. He thought he could stop the clan's rebellion without bloodshed. And for that, he had to betray someone. Either the Uchiha or himself. Mangekyo guilt born. Most Uchiha awaken their Mangekyo Sharingan after witnessing the death of someone close. Some even cause it themselves. Shisui's case was different. It wasn't murder. It wasn't vengeance. It was guilt. On a mission with his Genin squad, Shisui's best friend fell behind. The enemy was closing in. Shisui hesitated. Deep down, he was jealous. His friend had more talent, more praise. That moment of hesitation, just a few seconds, was all it took. He didn't go back. His friend died, and Shisui blamed himself for it. That crushing guilt became the key. His Mangekyo activated not through violence, but through emotional collapse. He was the first Uchiha to prove that pain, not murder, could unlock the eyes of darkness. Ironically, it made him more dangerous than ever, but also more broken inside. Koto Matsakami. Among all Mangekyo abilities in the Uchiha clan, Shisui's might be the most terrifying. It's called Koto Matsakami. This technique doesn't trap you in an illusion. It rewrites your mind. It implants thoughts so smoothly that the target thinks they came up with them on their own. No eye contact, no pain, no warning. You don't even know you're being controlled. Shisui could have made anyone do anything, peacefully, without a fight. That power came straight from Shinto mythology. The Koto Matsakami were the first gods in Japanese legend, who shaped the heavens silently. That's what Shisui wanted. Silent influence. No violence. Just a push in the right direction. In theory, he could have stopped wars without lifting a finger. But in practice, that power came with a price. Koto Matsakami. Limits. Koto Matsakami might be one of the strongest genjutsu in existence, but it came with a massive drawback. It could only be used once every 10 years. That's not a cooldown, that's a curse. Imagine having the power to change minds, stop wars, and rewrite fate, but only being able to use it once in a decade. Unless, of course, you had access to Hashirama's cells. Danzo did. That's how he cheated the system. Shisui, on the other hand, didn't have that luxury. When Danzo moved in to steal his eye, Shisui didn't activate Koto Matsakami. Not because he didn't want to, but because he couldn't. That moment proved something important. Even god-level techniques have human limits, and Shisui, for all his genius, was still bound by them. 2 eyes, 2 mysteries. There's a theory in the fandom that's gained a lot of traction, and for good reason. It's about Shisui's eyes. We know that Danzo used Koto Matsakami on Mifune without needing eye contact, but when Itachi used the same ability through his crow, it clearly required direct eye contact with Naruto. Why the difference? Some believe that each of Shisui's Mangekyo eyes had a slightly different function. One might have been more stealth-based, subtle, and long-range. The other, more direct, tied to visual triggers. It's never confirmed, but the clues are there, and that mystery adds another layer to Shisui's power. He was complicated, a shinobi wrapped in enigma, even in death. Shadow Brotherhood. Shisui's most meaningful connection wasn't with a teammate or a rival, it was with Itachi Uchiha. They were beyond friends. Shisui was like an older brother, a mentor, and a mirror of what Itachi could become. They trained together, talked about peace, and dreamed of stopping the war from the shadows. While the rest of the Uchiha clan grew more radical, Shisui and Itachi stood apart, calm, calculated, focused on the bigger picture. And it's not a stretch to say that Itachi's entire worldview was shaped by Shisui. The idea that a shinobi must sacrifice everything to protect the village, that didn't start with Itachi. It started with Shisui. He taught Itachi that the true shinobi doesn't need glory or recognition. They protect from the dark. And that belief would define everything Itachi did later. Training Sasuke. Shisui's legacy didn't stop with Itachi. At some point, he also trained Sasuke. We don't know much about their sessions. It's only mentioned briefly, but even that is telling. Sasuke, one of the most gifted shinobi of his generation, was influenced not only by his brother, but by his brother's closest friend. That puts Shisui in a unique position. He became a bridge between generations, a whisper of power passed down through blades, genjutsu, and ideals. It's one thing to fight for the future, it's another to shape it with your own hands. A sacrifice. In the end, Shisui made the ultimate choice. Knowing Danzo had taken one of his eyes and that the coup was coming soon, he turned to the only person he trusted, Itachi. He gave him his remaining eye, placing it inside a crow that would one day protect the village. Then he asked Itachi to do the unthinkable, kill him, not in combat, not in hatred, but as a gift. Shisui believed that if Itachi awakened his Mangekyo Sharingan, he'd become strong enough to save Konoha. So he offered his life as the catalyst. That moment was cruel. Shisui died with no glory, no revenge, and no recognition. He died knowing he might be misunderstood, hated, forgotten, but he also died with complete faith in Itachi, in their mission, in the idea that sometimes, to protect peace, you have to burn away your name. Uchiha Massacre. Shisui's death wasn't the end of his story. It was the beginning of a much darker one. The moment he vanished, Itachi changed. Before that, Itachi was hesitant, conflicted. He still believed there might be another way to save both Konoha and the Uchiha. But after Shisui's final words, "You have to protect the village," Itachi understood what had to be done. This wasn't about stopping a coup anymore. It was about honoring the will of someone he trusted more than anyone. The crow that Shisui gave him, implanted with the last Koto Matsakami eye, became a failsafe to protect the village long after both of them were gone. It wasn't used during the massacre. It wasn't meant for the past. It was a seed planted for the future, specifically to stop Sasuke if he ever lost control. But fate had other plans. One of Shisui's eyes was stolen. The other was destroyed. His ultimate genjutsu, the one jutsu that could have stopped everything without a single drop of blood, died with him. And with that, Shisui's legacy transformed from savior to sacrifice. Spy against clan. Becoming a traitor isn't always about betrayal. Sometimes, it's about conviction. Shisui was born into the Uchiha clan, but over time, he saw their discontent grow. The segregation, the humiliation after the Ninetales attack, and the village elders turning their backs on the clan, it all built up into a storm of resentment. He understood their anger, but he also feared what it could lead to. So he made the hardest decision of his life. He went to the third Hokage and exposed the coup. This act shattered the line between family and duty. It marked Shisui as a traitor to his clan, but a loyal shinobi of the Hidden Leaf. He wasn't driven by power or politics. He genuinely believed that by watching the Uchiha from within, he could prevent war. But watching wasn't enough. The fuse was already burning. The Koto Matsakami plan. Faced with limited options, Shisui turned to the one trump card he had left, Koto Matsakami. His idea was bold, subtle, and ethically terrifying. He planned to use the genjutsu on Fugaku Uchiha, the clan head and leader of the rebellion. The goal was simple: change Fugaku's mind without him realizing it, and have him quietly abandon the coup. If it worked, the Uchiha would follow their leader, never realizing their revolution had ended before it began. No war, no blood, just peace. But is it truly peace if it's built on deception? That's the dark question buried inside Shisui's plan. He never saw it as manipulation. He saw it as salvation. But the fact remains, he was going to override a man's free will, not because he hated him, but because he believed it was the only way to protect everyone. And that's where Danzo stepped in. Danzo's betrayal. Danzo didn't believe in idealism. He didn't believe in gentle solutions. He believed in results. When Shisui presented his Koto Matsakami plan to the elders, the third Hokage gave his cautious approval. But Danzo, he saw a threat. He knew that if Shisui kept both eyes, he would be too powerful to control. So Danzo made a move. He arranged a secret meeting. Shisui went, thinking it was a discussion. Instead, it was an ambush. Yoji Aburame, a root operative under Danzo's command, used a special paralyzing insect that left Shisui frozen. Danzo then activated Izanagi, a forbidden Uchiha jutsu that allows you to rewrite reality for a brief moment, and ripped out Shisui's right eye. The betrayal was absolute. Shisui escaped, bleeding and half blind, but the damage was done. Not just physically, but spiritually. The village he gave everything to had stabbed him in the back. His plan was destroyed, his trust shattered. And still, he didn't give up on the village. A vanishing. With his body failing and his mission ruined, Shisui turned to the only person who hadn't betrayed him, Itachi. He met him at a secret location and gave him the last thing he had left, his left eye, embedded in a crow with Koto Matsakami already prepared. He explained that Danzo couldn't be allowed to get the second eye. Then he made one final request. He asked Itachi to kill him so that Itachi could awaken his own Mangekyo and become strong enough to carry on their shared dream. Itachi couldn't do it. So Shisui jumped. He left behind a note, carefully written to make it look like a suicide born from despair. Then he vanished into the Naka River. No body was ever found, not because of luck, but because Shisui planned it that way. He erased himself from the world. Even Kabuto, who resurrected dozens of fallen shinobi for the Fourth Great Ninja War, couldn't find enough remains to bring him back. Shisui became a ghost. A memory passed down through whispers and pain. A shinobi whose greatest power wasn't Koto Matsakami. It was vanishing at the exact moment history needed him to disappear. And in that silence, he changed the world. Thanks for watching till the end. See ya.